kind of amazing when you think about it. Here we are, located in the center of 3 million square acres. We have to drive 2.5 hours to get anywhere, 3 hours to the largest big city. You know, I think we've embraced that. It's our life, but there was a time in our history when people told us how to dress and pray and what to eat, and you know, you need to be a certain way, where I think it's empowering to know that now the reservation is the stronghold. It's where we come home, and we know that when we cross that river. Waniyetu Wowapi translated means winter count. And winter count was a practice of Lakota people where we recorded our stories and our histories. So a long time ago they would have done that maybe on the walls of inside caves or whatever. Eventually they were telling stories on buffalo robes. But you know, it is true. Art isn't something we talk about, it's all culture. It's not art, it's just culture. And we're just doing it in a more contemporary way. We're expressing ourselves in a little bit more interesting way, I think, and that's through bringing graffiti culture. It's storytelling like we would have done because we're an oral society. We go from year to year to year, but we're just using graffiti art to do it. So we haven't changed. It's not art, it's still just culture and storytelling and messages to our people, and you know, be strong, you know, be empowered.
I think on the face of it, people might at first see graffiti as this sort of outside contemporary type of art, but really when you look at even just basic adornment, you know, the way that clothes were painted or a teepee was painted, they're just expressions of that world that we're reflecting. And so to have graffiti art in the community, really to me it's just as similar as painting a teepee. Really, it's just the continuation of a tradition of adornment, storytelling, reflecting the culture. It's just, instead of it being quill work or bead work or painting on a hide, and we can kind of do an extension of that same thing by being able to sit with youth, shake up some spray cans and, you know, paint words and reinforce language and culture in that way.
Art has always been a huge part of our communities. I mean, if you look at traditional regalia or clothing or housing, I mean, these things are amazing. Museum quality stuff just walking around as everyday wear. And I think that for Native youth today, having art programs is huge because there's a lot of different ways for people to express their emotions and express their feelings and express themselves. I think giving them more tools in their emotional, educational toolbox, you know, just gives them that many more chances to, you know, have a good childhood and become, you know, better adults and healthier parents so that they can, you know, again, break these cycles that we're dealing with in our communities.
My favorite part about the art internship is the way you can express yourself with the art. I enjoy coming back because we do several different ways of express ourselves. Some days we do watercolors, some days we do acrylics, some days we just do free creative writing, and it's really fun.
What I like about this art internship is that art in general, you can put so much emotion or like have a story in it. If you have like a hard time talking about your feelings and stuff, it's a good way to get them out.
I think it was like wonderful and like peaceful. Like it really like takes you to somewhere, like your imagination, to where you can paint what you see in your imagination.
I have 4 kids at home that I take care of. Now all 4 of them have been through the programs, and if they didn't have that to do, they'd just be sitting at home. especially with my son and my daughter, they did some classes here and they would come home so excited about the different activities they did, the different pictures they drew or the foods they cooked, and wanted us to try the stuff they made here. So it just gives them another avenue to grow and become a better person.
I think one of the most important parts about the work here at CRYP is the arts. I think that the evolution of the arts program here is what I'd like to see all over, not just this country, but quite honestly, globally. And the reason I say that is I've been working with and around a lot of different Native nonprofits in my life, and I know that we don't have arts in a silo in the work that we do. You know, it's part of our lifeways, it's part of our culture, and there's a reason for that. But the systems that have been set up to fund the arts, the systems that have been set up to structure nonprofit organizations don't often allow for things like Red Can Graffiti Jam, for the different kinds of arts programming going on here. And somehow Julie has been able to cast that aside and say, we're going to do this the way we need to so that we can really let arts thrive, that we can honor arts as part of our culture here, and that we can think differently about what the role of arts is, not just as arts, but in youth development, in leadership, in healing.
I'm an artist of a different kind. You know, I like to create spaces. So, you know, where there's a really great phrase out there right now called creative placemakers, I've been one my entire life, and I didn't realize it, and I hesitated calling myself a creative placemaker, but I am. What I love is that those early days at the Cheyenne River Youth Project, or the Main, as we fondly refer to it, those days taught us what we wanted to be when we grow up. It's kind of interesting that, you know, 33 years later, we've evolved to a campus. You know, we've been growing and adding these different pieces. So we added the new Main in 1999. We added the new Teen Center in 2006. We added the garden in 2000. We added the Waniyetu Wowapi Art Park in 2014 or 2015. So these are all pieces, and each one of those pieces has so much potential. But in the end, I mean, I always tend to simplify everything, which is I call it youth programming. It really is just youth programming. We're just trying to create the spaces so that our young people can go further with it. They can take it farther than they've ever wanted to go or imagine. And it started with an art studio in the Chocatawichoni Teen Center, which we outgrew right away. I had learned about graffiti and had met some graffiti writers and started to understand a little bit about that culture. And I thought that would be amazing for kids, because kids love graffiti, and sometimes it's vandalism. But wouldn't it be awesome if we could take that energy with the spray paint and create something really beautiful? So that's what we did. We started with a few graffiti classes. We brought artists in. Kids were learning can control. And then I thought, wouldn't it be great to have an art park?
I think it was very shocking because in the beginning, I think the idea was to build one wall was the very first idea that I remember. And then I remember there was a conversation where they're like, oh, you know, your next task is you're going to build an art park. Yeah, we were very surprised, and we were kind of laughing, and we're like, hey, what happened to the one wall? I think with anything, this whole program just pretty much took a life of its own, and, you know, it'll continue to grow.
What I loved about the artwork that was being created in the park is that it was often a reflection of what was happening currently. If there was something that was involving racism, sometimes we saw those messages play out. If it was about the power of Lakota people, we saw that play out in the art park. If we saw, you know, something about missing and murdered Indigenous women, that was also a message that could be found in our art park. So the messages were big, and some of them were just very local, but they were always messages. So that's why naming the art park Waniyetu Wowapi was so perfect. We went from, oh, let's draw us on some paper to let's paint buildings. We kind of made a big jump, but it was a natural jump and it made sense. And I think that people didn't know what a graffiti jam was. And here we are trying to bring a jam to Eagle Butte, South Dakota. I think it was risky, but I also feel that Cheyenne River Youth Project does risky work anyway, because we understand in order to reach kids, you know, you have to go where they are. You know, when you just know in your heart something's right or it's the right thing to do. That's how I felt about Red Can.
I think kids like graffiti for a lot of different reasons. I always liked it when I was a kid, and my parents did not like that I liked it. I think it's loud, it's vibrant. You're not supposed to be doing it, so it's appealing. You know, there's that kind of draw. But I think it's, for a lot of people, it's about claiming something that's yours or saying I'm here and taking ownership of that.
So when you put art on the exterior walls, you really send a message to the community, which is really important because then it gives ownership to the community that I am here, and they can respond in more of a positive way because they see within their community images that they relate to.
Well, graffiti in the modern era was born of the youth. It is a true form of expression that doesn't have censorship, that there's no right or wrong way to do. Sure, there are rules, but rules are meant to be broken. Rules are meant to change over time and evolve. It was created by youth. And so it's universally a fluid language. And I think youth can pick up on that.
And like last night when they walked in, like the hugs were so genuine and so beautiful. And I just felt like my world was right again.
Well, the first Red Can, was a far cry from what it is today. It was so much smaller. It's grown exponentially since then. And to come to where, Indigenous people are so open and accepted, and to be in the community with other Indigenous people was so eye-opening. I don't think there's been a year where I've had a dry eye at this event. Just coming back here, being in touch with, my people, and being welcomed and being able to do the things that I love and share that art with the Indigenous people here, it was just life-changing, and there was no way I couldn't continue to come back.
I first heard about Red Can, I think about 5 years ago, and kind of just started following the social media posts, and I was just blown away. So I was like, man, here's the res and all this amazing artwork, but then these top-notch graffiti artists and style writers. It really just blew my mind. So to see that top-level work being made here, it just caught my attention, and I fell in love just as an observer. To be able to participate in Red Can as somebody who's Lakota, it's immeasurable for me, because really on the one level it's a homecoming. So to be able to be with my people is just an important thing in and of itself. To hear the language, to have the opening prayers, the smudging, that's just a familiar part of life, but then to have that incorporated as like kicking off the day to spray paint, it's incredible.
Red Can is one of these moments that you feel like you need to be part of to really understand the magic that goes on here. You can just feel what it's like to come together, and to come together with the kind of purpose that Red Can has. There's just this natural creativity that comes out of how people come together out here. I mean, the minute I stepped foot and had to start helping out in a graffiti park, I just felt that, and I'm just really excited to be part of it finally, and I really feel like I'm experiencing one of the most important foundations to the work here at CRYP.
The guys got here and they started putting up their mural and sketching it out, And you know, what's interesting about it is, you know, people were coming by last night, they were honking, they were loving it, they were so excited. They embrace it now. It's a part of who we are.
There was a lot of questions about why were we painting and what were we doing, and now it's like, oh, it's Red Can, it's that CRYP event. It's, you know, everyone's driving around and looking and honking and cheering you on while you paint. So it's cool. We've seen it from the start, and it's awesome to see it grow.
This year we took these dilapidated apartment buildings that have been vacated for years, and we got permission from tribal government because they're a very strong partner of ours. And we asked, can we paint this building? And then it's one central location. It's just one piece. It's just one gathering point for all of it. And I think it's really exciting. Of course, it remains to be seen. I don't know yet. We'll see. But I'm excited. And, you know, all the artists are there. They're not spread out all over town. So I think the camaraderie and the bonds are going to get even stronger, which I'm super excited about.
I mean, the wall was pretty intimidating. I think it might have been the largest one I've ever painted and participated in. So that was kind of like, all right, this is much bigger than the photo. You know, you get the little picture and you're like, ah, okay, this isn't too bad. And you stand next to it and you're like, oh, wow.
I think one of the biggest things that I've seen as a change with Red Can over the years that I've participated has been just that emphasis on more language, more culture being put into the murals. And what's amazing to me too is that if you are familiar with graffiti artists or style writers, we kind of tend to be people who promoting the name, promoting your AKA is sort of the bottom line. It's what you do. But I think everyone that comes here knows they can kind of shed that in favor of what the community kind of yearns for. Being able to incorporate language into the murals is integral. I think it's part of what makes the community happy, but it also it naturalizes that idea of language being an everyday thing. And then for me personally, it's helpful because, you know, on both sides of my family, we're survivors of the boarding school experience where a lot of that language is taken away from us. So being able to paint, to have people come up and discuss, you know, just a single word and what it means and how to pronounce it, that's huge. It's a real big reconnection for culture, not just with myself, but I think people in the community as well.
Artists are the keeper of the history. They're the keeper of the stories. And they give back to the community what they don't know that their soul has basically longed for or lost.
I think it's nice that the Lakota language is incorporated in the murals sometimes because it not only does it give us a chance to see our language depicted, but it opens up a conversation with our kids.
You know, we've had multiple reactions of people coming and saying, you know, this word, this is how it affects me, this is a story that goes along with that theme or that character. Many of these people have grown up with these stories and these words, and for them to be able to come over and talk to us about something that we're doing and then educate us and empower us is it's just very cool.
When we're running around town painting these murals, you know, we're normalizing something that doesn't always happen. We're creating this environment where subconsciously children see adults that are native, that are successful, professional artists, and that plants a seed.
So there was always a lot of children just coming by, just looking at the art and being fascinated by it. And I always took my time to stop what I was doing to talk to them, explaining exactly what I was doing and how it made me feel, and if they would try it. If I can use a can of spray paint to create art and show that as a creative force, why not, you know, show children to do the same thing too, and then having, instead of cogniting it with something negative, do it something positive. And they can always go back and say, this is what I did, this is my part, this is my section, and I contributed to it, so that's always an honor.
I think coming here, meeting us artists, seeing us doing murals, knowing that some of us have made careers out of this, I think it helps empower the youth to do something that they love and that they're passionate about. And to have the opportunity to come to some place like CRYP, have murals being done live in front of you, meet artists, have art classes, and have these new tools and these new opportunities available to you can help show kids that your passion and that your love for art can also be turned into a career. And hopefully it gives them a new direction.
I think the biggest thing for us at CRYP is that we pay attention. We really pay attention to like what's happening. What are the kids saying? What are they doing? What did they create? Everything we've done is because the kids have told us to, in a way. We've seen incredible artwork being created. We've seen so much, and I just think, oh wow, these kids are amazing. Well, we need to get them engaged in art. We need to evolve this art program.
Investing in young people is one of the most important things that you can do. And unfortunately, this country doesn't put enough emphasis on its art programs in general. So to have a groundbreaking for a new community center here just dedicated to youth and their art, I mean, I think it's laying a really important foundation.
Very excited, but I'm not surprised. I think that Julie, she's a force, and she's always trying to push for bigger and better and try to achieve the things that some would think weren't achievable.
You get to a point and you're like, this is not enough. If you're going to offer a truly evolved program, the kids need to have their own space. So now we're going to be building an art center, and it will fall under the umbrella of the Institute, and it will offer, you know, someplace for kids to make music, record, photography. There will be places to make clothes like regalia, ribbon skirts. There will be a place for Red Can.
Kids, their most basic needs as they're learning is that they are being heard, and whether it's, you know, verbally or through their art, having that space and knowing, even though it's a new building and it's an extension of what we already built here, from the main to the teen center, and now, you know, this new building coming along, I think it's just more safer spaces for them to create in.
The ceremony was emotionally heavy. It was a lot to take in. You know, I've never really been to a groundbreaking, so I wasn't really sure like what to expect. And it was cool to see like the kids helping out with it too, and you know, because it's kind of what it's for. So yeah, it was a lot. Children have, you know, all that energy, and so to give them a positive place for them to kind of harness that energy and kind of put it forward, I think that only good things can come from that. Yeah, and I'm just happy to be doing my small part in all of it.
There's all these statistics about how much more successful youth are in terms of things like high school persistence and college persistence with arts as a real part of their programming if they've received it regularly. Art is such an amazing opportunity for expression and development of self-identity through that kind of expression. I think there's so many possibilities for that through the Art Center, so I'm very excited to see what happens.
I think this is going to be a great starting point, because who knows, people might go off to art school, they may go off to law school, but this is going to give people that space to enjoy creativity and to be able to be creative, and that's the starting point for like so many career paths. Young people have a better perspective on the way that the world is going and the way that it's unfolding, and we need to listen to them if we're going to have a place in this world. And you know, in turn, you know, I think it's part of that 7 generations thinking where we listen to young people so that those 7 generations from now, there's something good for them, you know, that we're laying groundwork for.
I think that what it means in order to have a community center that's giving kids the chance to do art and how that impacts them later on in life isn't always just about making the art, but it's also about becoming a creative thinker in whatever it is that you're passionate in. And it teaches kids and adults to look at things from different perspectives and apply their voice to it, apply a different way of problem solving. And so I don't think that every kid has to be worried about whether they're going to necessarily become an artist, but enjoy the process of being taught how to think differently and to think outside of the box.
What's happening here and why this groundbreaking of this art center means so much is it really is a beacon for the rest of our Native nonprofits and our communities to think big with programs like CRYP and to really help communicate that to their funders and their stakeholders so that they're not just thinking about arts in this underfunded small silo. It belongs as a central part of the work, especially for our young people, and I think CRYP with this groundbreaking is really showing the rest of the country what that means.
Having a facility, a new facility to house that program is so important because if you look at Native communities, the reservation system, boarding schools, forced assimilation, language eradication, these are all things that the intent was to make Indian people and Indian youth specifically feel humiliation and embarrassment about who they were, who their people were, and what their community was. And when you have a new facility like this that people can look at and be proud of in the community, so you're proud of the facility, you're proud of the programming, it reverses those impacts. So then you have youth who are proud of their community, proud of their family, proud of their tribe, and proud of themselves, and that will make the difference in their life outcomes.
Just given the opportunity to hold a spray can or acrylic paint or go to a museum or have adults that genuinely care about me that aren't part of my immediate family sends that message that I matter. So when it came to being a part of this with Julie, that's the legacy that she's creating, is that these children matter.
I still remember every child that I might have lost for whatever reason. I think about them because they're part of how we got here today. I remember them. And I continue to think, well, I need to keep moving forward for them. If I do it for anybody, I need to do it for them. We hear a lot about in Lakota culture, there is no word for art because art is culture and culture is art. So I love that idea that, we can't put what we're doing here into this one phrase of being artistic, because when we're artistic, we're cultural. We're revitalizing, our language, our culture, our ceremonies, all of that. All of those pieces play out through the art that we're creating. And I think that's kind of magical.
Putting art on surfaces is, especially, I don't know, like the building we were painting 2 days ago or 3 days ago was, just kind of looked run down, and, it's tough to drive by that and like, this is where I am. But when you have a mural on there or a picture, it's easier to engage with that whole area around you. And I think it also lets you see the potential for certain things that you might not otherwise.
The public is engaging and people are seeing more people out walking about, and it feels like a safer place with all the color and the filled space where there was just this void for something to hide, and now something actually lives there and it's vibrant and it breathes life.
Just the color alone changes the mindset. It makes things look precious. What is the first thing that humans do when they come into a space? They decorate it. They make it look like themselves. It's reflected. It reflects the community. And so when you take something that's dilapidated like that with broken windows and overrun grass and you cover it with artwork that represents the people and have especially the youth, the most marginalized and the bottom of the tier, contribute to that part that's going to be permanent or a staple in the community. It shows that you're invested in them and that they matter.
You talk about racial equity and social justice. Those are things that we've been talking about for our people and our young people for decades, at least as long as I have been involved. We're just doing it through youth programming and kids and reminding them of their power and who they are as Lakota people. I just think all the things that we're doing is all so central to their healthy development. I still imagine what we can do for our kids and our community. Like, I still believe absolutely that we can go to the next level and the next step.
I'm getting up there in age, I don't like to admit it, but it's nice to see people coming to the community. Rather than trying to save us, they're doing something. They're giving a hand up, not a handout. Well, it feels good to have some help.
I believe so strongly in sovereignty and the right to make your own decisions and to solve your own problems. That is our responsibility as grown-ups, as our responsibility to the 7th generation. That is what we should be doing. But yes, do we need support from outside? Of course we do. Building relationships is the most important thing, I think, that has brought us to where we are.
I mean, at this point, it's like Red Can is a family, and you know, this community feels like family too. It's nice to be able to use a skill set that I've developed over the years for something other than myself.
You know, they've pulled out a part of me that, I'm gonna start to tear up, but a part of me that I didn't know existed. And it's something that you have to experience. So, you know, my love for this community grows every year because of what it does for me. And that's the thing that keeps bringing me back. So.
What I feel keeps me coming back is you get that spiritual essence, that feeling of caring, and you interact with people that you don't see on a regular basis, or you even know them or met them for the first time, and they feel like family. And this platform, it gives that sense of community where you feel safe, that you can share secrets with a stranger.
In the end, I think there's a great love for humanity. I think there's a great love for friendship, and I think that you can't ask for more. It's so beautiful.
Hi.